Occult Confessions is brought to you commercial-free through the generous support of our patrons. Visit occultconfessions.com and click on Donate to help keep the history of the occult on the digital airwaves. Helena Blavatsky says that her short Voice of the Silence is derived from the Book of the Golden Precepts, which are part of the same series as the Book of Dzian or Dizian, on which the secret doctrine is based. There is no known direct corollary for the Book of the Golden Precepts that is extant. However, Blavatsky contended that she was revealing some of the secrets of an esoteric or secret Buddhism, so the fact that we can't find this book isn't really much of a problem as far as the authenticity of the text. The Book of Dizian, which has a far more important role and lore in theosophy, given that it is the source of the secret doctrine, was a text that Blavatsky perused while in Tibet. Blavatsky said that her stanzas of Dizian were unknown to scholars under the name she ascribed to them, which suggests that they may have been known under some other name. But when Blavatsky was writing, she believed the stanzas to have been written by a people and in a language heretofore unknown. These people date to the very beginning of our root race, which is to say, the fifth root race. Theoretically, the Golden Precepts had a similar history. In a posthumously published book, Blavatsky mentioned a 35-book series of which the stanzas were a part, and perhaps also the Golden Precepts, as she seems to suggest in her preface. The Book of the Golden Precepts is a blend of pre-Buddhist and post-Buddhist thought, and contains about 90 distinct little treatises, says Blavatsky. Blavatsky's teaching is not so foreign to anyone who has studied Buddhism or Hinduism, but Blavatsky is clear that it is also fragmentary. The 3 sections of the book are labeled fragments, suggesting that they do not contain the full knowledge of the hidden texts. Insofar as the book comes from a collection of secret texts, I would suggest that most of what she has to say is a way of communicating Buddhist ideas, and is not especially occult or hidden. But that's just my take. And I'm going to give you the rest of that take here today on Occult Confessions. My name is Dr. Robert C. Thompson, joined by Johnny Cook, our patron progenitor.
Howdy, y'all.
Were you upgraded from patron progenitor?
I know we made that joke with being
it's not
Savannah.
Official.
No.
It's your what is your unofficial title? Do you remember?
No, I don't. I remember my original title, but not.
What was your original title?
I think it was Sylph of the Air, wasn't it?
Oh, that's cool. That's a cool one, too.
It is. So I still claim that one.
Okay,
so I have
right.
2.
You're a man of many titles.
Yes, I'm a progenitor
Of titles. Well, we'll think about that. All right. We, the members of the Secret Order of Alchemical Actors, do solemnly commit ourselves to a full and honest telling of the history of the occult as far as we know it. All right, John, we're talking about the Voice of the Silence today. Are you interested in this subject matter?
I'm interested in pretty much all the subject matter we've covered.
Yes, yeah, that is your unique characteristic. Yeah, but how do you feel about the Eastern religions here, the Buddhism side of things?
I don't know as much about them as like the Western ones, obviously, but I am always able to find at least a few nuggets that I can try to apply in my life, which, anytime you can do that, it's an interesting topic.
Yeah, I hear that. And I think a lot of our discussion about Krishnamurti will be a nice counterpoint or sometimes point for what we're talking about today. There'll be some sort of connections there. Because he does come out of this tradition. Albeit he goes in the same direction, with it. I mean, not only as a Hindu, but also theosophy, right? He was trained in all the Blavatsky, ideology before he went off in his own direction.
How similar are Hinduism and Buddhism?
Extremely similar as Judaism and Christianity.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's some major points of difference, but there's also like a really strong core there that overlaps.
If you were to explain it to a 5-year-old, they would sound pretty similar.
The reincarnation, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. But also, major differences about the caste system and the gods. And anyway, the voice of the silence. My method today is going to be to take a close look at some of the passages from this relatively short book and try and lay out the thread of Blavatsky's argument and tease out her meanings, which are variously apparent and less obvious. So, let's go ahead and take a look. The mind, says Blavatsky, is the great slayer of the real. Let the disciple slay the slayer. Ooh, I love that line. The mind is the great slayer of the real. Let the disciple slay the slayer.
Will the disciples slay their mind?
Gotta slay your mind.
Yeah.
This is on page 1, and it identifies the central thesis that pretty much the whole of the voice of the silence can be read as an attempt to explain. The mind, with a capital M, slays the real. Insofar as reality is truth, this is not such a good thing. The language of slaying is intentionally violent. The mind wields its propensity for illusion, better called self-deception, as a club that wrecks the reality around us, trapping us in an unreality created by our own false impressions. And so, if we want to progress along the path to enlightenment, we must slay the slayer. Not quiet, calm, or train the mind, but eliminate it. Pretty intense.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal. That's a way to grab your reader's attention on the first page.
I mean, we can't forget that Blavatsky, is famous for blending Western and Eastern occultism. And I think, as a rule, but this is not I'm generalizing too much, but Eastern occultism is a bit softer in approach. Western occultism, of course, is generally not regarded as being especially soft. So I think we're catching a bit of that, like westernization. So how do we slay the slayer? Blavatsky says, when he has ceased to hear the many, he may discern the one, the inner sound which kills the outer. Before the soul can see, the harmony within must be attained, and fleshly eyes be rendered blind to all illusion. So the process is inside out. We work from the inside out, is what I'm trying to say. There's an inner harmonizing of the self that recognizes that the multitude is the illusion, our perception that there are many things and that we are many. There is no multitude, all is one. For this first section of the book, Blavatsky focuses on sound as the central metaphor. I mean, it's the voice of the silence. Right?
Yeah.
So,
yep.
and the section 1 of the voice of the silence is called the voice of the silence. So it's really all about, like, how do we think through sound as a spiritual thing? Sound is interesting, in my opinion here, and follow me on this if you will. We are, I believe, most apt to be overwhelmed by sound. Let me try and prove this to you. This is just me thinking through Blavatsky here. And we also have to remember, before I get into this, that it's the 19th century, yeah. So when we're thinking about sound in particular, and we're thinking about stimuli, we have a far more stimulating culture from a sensory standpoint, in a few different ways. In some ways, I think maybe a less stimulating culture. I think our culture maybe stinks a bit less than it did in the 19th century. But visual stimuli, right, are extreme these days. So, thinking in terms of the 19th century, an individual is unlikely to smell, taste, or touch in a way that floods the senses. Yes, I think there were some strong odors in the 19th century, but they were fairly unified. We might sense unpleasant things, but these senses generally complement and confirm each other. Let's think, for example, of smelling, touching, or tasting a pie, or an ice cream, or touching and smelling a wet dog, or a horse, right? All your senses are sort of matching up, and things go nicely together.
Yeah.
Sight might bring us a plethora of information, but even today, I would say, we're used to taking in a lot of information through sight, or I should say even in the 19th century. our eyes like are just looking around this room. Like we have our podcasting room is also we store things in here. We keep snacks. We keep tea and coffee. There's so much to look at. So many colors, but that's not strange to us. We're always dealing with this. Our eyes are used to dealing with all the colors. In any case, sights are less likely to cause a visceral reaction than discordant sounds. All right? Think, for example, of just two sounds clashing, like when you've got the television on and somebody turns on the radio.
Ugh.
Right? Yeah, that drives me nuts.
That was awful.
Or when multiple people are attempting to talk to you simultaneously. Like for the first second you can tolerate this, but when the Zoom call they just keep talking, it's miserable, right? We get easily overwhelmed, overstimulated by sound, I think, in these ways. I'm not suggesting like a horror movie like can visually disturb and upset us, but often that's being done by linking up sound with what we're watching. Sound is so important, right, to melodrama, and by melodrama I include romantic comedies and horror movies and Marvel movies, right? We need sound to like guide the emotions.
Yeah, like the Jaws soundtrack, the Halloween, like they all have these specific chords. Yeah.
So I think Blavatsky is clever to root all of this in sound. I'm saying Blavatsky, but the golden precepts, however we want to perceive this. So how do we achieve this movement from the many to the one? She says, thou hast to give up self to non-being, self to non-self, being to non-being, and then thou canst repose between the wings of the great bird. Yeah, she talks a little bit like a character in a JRPG. But it's kind of charming.
In English. So it's like it's that Western and Eastern colliding, right?
Yeah. We've medievalized the JRPG. Yeah, that's Blavatsky. I mean, essentially, she's doing the same thing. An important part of the spiritual journey, elucidated in The Voice of Silence, is about surrendering your ego. The white light path of surrendering the self to something larger. Much of this adventure is worked out in terms of single-digit numbered achievements and states of being. In other words, 3 halls, O conqueror of Mara, will bring thee through 3 states into the 4th, and thence into the 7 worlds. You see, all single digits.
Yep.
And clever, too. Like, when you look at that 3 and 3 and 4, right, and 7, all the numbers sort of, like, match up together in a Kabbalistic way. These are the worlds of rest eternal, the 7 worlds. Okay, so you're probably wondering, John, what are these 3 halls?
Yeah.
You want to go to them?
I want to learn about them. I don't know if I want to go just yet.
Right. Let's look at the brochure. So the first hall is ignorance. So maybe you were right not to immediately take a journey. The second...
Well, it'd be kind of ignorant of me to just assume it would be good.
You've already skipped the first hall. Yeah. You just walked past it. The second hall is learning. But under every flower, a serpent coiled.
Ooh, I like that.
The third hall is wisdom. Okay, so let's look at these 3. The first hall and the final hall are pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Right? Like
they just got 1 line of text.
Yes, we don't want to be ignorant, right? Trapped in our own ignorance. But wisdom is just, okay, you've arrived.
Yeah.
Cool. So it's the second, it's that liminal hall, the between, that is interesting to us. And it's the one where we've got to worry about the serpent. So, we don't want to be trapped in ignorance, and we hope to make it to a state of true understanding or wisdom. In between, we must learn without getting stung by the serpent. This is a common feature of Blavatsky's teaching, that we must learn without getting an ego about it. This jives pretty well with Buddhist philosophy, which tends to abhor pride. Christian philosophy, incidentally, too. Not a big fan of pride. If we get too excited about how smart we're becoming, or get too attached to any particular ideas about the way of the world, we lose our way. Learning is a step up to higher knowledge, but it is easy to get stuck. This is the coiled serpent. We get excited about what we think we know.
Yeah.
7 sounds herald the ascent of the soul into the state of wisdom, and thence into the veil of bliss. Back to the sound metaphor.
And back to the single digits.
Back to the, yes. And 7, right? 7 sounds, 7 worlds. So let's go through our sounds one at a time. Number 1, the nightingale mourning. Not in the morning, but sad.
Yeah.
Number 2, the silver cymbal, as in clashing cymbal. You guys got me? You got me, John?
Yep. Yep.
The musical instrument.
It got me thinking, like, what brand, what type of material it is, Do they all have to be the same, or is it just one specific symbol?
Part of a drum set. The ocean sprite in its shell. This is the 3rd one.
What does that mean? Ocean sprite?
I think like a fairy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like a nymph.
She's in her shell. The chant of Vina. We'll get there. The bamboo flute. The trumpet blast. Thunder. And finally, the 7th sound is the sound that swallows all.
Seemed like they got a little bit more intense as you go along.
Yes, the sound of silence at the end. So, reaching this final sound, this voice of silence, she says, the sounds die and are heard no more. What's interesting, as John's saying about this progression, is that it moves along several trajectories, right? It moves from sadness and confinement. We have a sad nightingale. We have these little clashing silver cymbals. We have the ocean sprite in her shell. It moves through like soft and meditative sounds. The vina, or vina, it's actually a string instrument. And then it moves to the loud, as you said, John, with the thunder and the trumpets, big, loud, brassy sounds.
Yeah.
And finally, it's all swallowed up. It's annihilated in the end. The voice of the silence. Self-purification and ample preparation are necessary to begin on the journey through these sounds. Blavatsky is clear that you don't come to this work to figure out how to get free of your sins and vices. You come to this work having already done so. This is a guide for the advanced student. So if you guys just think you're going to go out and do this tomorrow, you got some work to do first.
Yeah.
Get yourself ready. I'll quote her here. Woe then to thee, disciple, if there is one single vice thou hast not left behind, for then the latter will give way and overthrow thee. The path here is really about starving out your vices rather than feeding them. And while this is not unique to Blavatsky, it is also not a universal opinion in Buddhist or even Theosophist thought. Let's now do some comparison with Krishnamurti. Krishnamurti's theosophy Krishnamurti's theosophy adjacent philosophy, there you go, that's what I was trying to get out, for example, suggested that we needed to see a thought through to the end so that it might live out its full life, wither, and die. Blavatsky, by contrast, says, do not believe that lust can ever be killed out if gratified or satiated, for this is an abomination inspired by Mara. It is by feeding vice that it expands and waxes strong, like to the worm that fattens on the blossom's heart. So, counterpoint here.
Yeah.
Blavatsky's very much like, she has a strong ascetic streak of like self-deprivation.
Yeah.
Particularly when it comes to sex. Although I don't think she was bothered by it, in my personal opinion. I think, she was fairly asexual herself. But yeah, I mean, the counterpoint to this is Krishnamurti, that you should allow a thought to bloom, because only by allowing it to, only by fully going through it can you.
You got to analyze all sides, and then you truly know it, and then can make a decision on it.
Yeah, maybe the way we could bring them together is, Blavatsky's sort of talking about indulging the vice or whatever it is, and that this will be bad for you. And Krishnamurti's more talking about understanding it, studying it. Okay, so if you've gotten this far, if you've pulled all of this off successfully, then you get in touch with your master with a capital M. Not me, not John, but your inner master. Silence thy thoughts and fix thy whole attention on thy master, whom yet thou dost not see, but whom thou feelest. So who's this master? Blavatsky says this work puts the disciple in touch with their higher self, which is, according to theosophical doctrine, a part of God. Thou art thyself the object of thy search, the voice unbroken that resounds throughout eternities, exempt from change, from sin exempt, the seven sounds in one, the voice of the silence. Here, Blavatsky and Krishnamurti come together. The truth speaks to us from deep within ourselves, from our deep inner silence. I think Krishnamurti talked about just listening to the silence, and in the silence, this is where God speaks to you.
Yeah. Yep.
So it is internal, right? It is about the notion that God is inside of you if you can just quiet yourself down enough to hear.
Yeah. Limit the distractions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Part 2. The two paths. So the second of 3 sections changes focus to the two paths. One is the path of the Buddha to nirvana. The second path is the path of the bodhisattva, who stops short of nirvana in order to commit himself or herself to the salvation of all humankind. Says Blavatsky, the paths are 2, the great perfections 3, 6 are the virtues that transform the body into the tree of knowledge. This is not like reading Blavatsky, like she certainly is channeling like Hindu, Buddhist, like it's very common, these, numbering of things. We love to do this in sutras and this sort of stuff. 3, 6, 2. Oh, there you go. She did it again. There are 2 paths, 3 perfections, 6 are the virtues. 2 times 3 is 6. Clever.
Is there a 7 in there too?
No 7s this time. We don't have a 4.
We had 2 before, so I think that makes up for it.
So these paths are both rooted in a turning away from the external and toward the internal, which we mentioned earlier. For mind is like a mirror. It gathers dust while it reflects. It needs the gentle breezes of soul wisdom to brush away the dust of our illusions. Seek, O beginner, to blend thy mind and soul. All right, so let's see if we can see through her metaphor here. Is a dusty mirror. Yeah. Blavatsky's metaphor seems to suggest here that so long as we reflect our external circumstances like a mirror, driven by our sense impressions, and governed by the cause and effect of the world that has shaped us, we will become spiritually dusty. In other words, these experiences accrue, and the clear, pure inner light of the soul, which is unaffected by these externalities, is capable of making us clean. You got me?
So when she's saying reflect, she's not saying reflect as like shake it off or reject it. She's saying, let it reflect on your inside.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I think you could say it that way. I mean, if I'm thinking about reflection just in the way she's phrased the metaphor, you could picture yourself holding the mirror away from yourself. If it's turning towards you, then you're in bad shape. It's getting dusty as you stare at the mirror and it stares back at you.
Okay.
You flip that mirror around and you give it a good shake, and all the dust that's accrued vanishes. And you are in that image. You are the soul. You become the soul when you stop reflecting what's around you. John's thinking.
Yeah, I'm having trouble following.
So you are...
Are you the mirror?
Yes, you're the mirror. I mean, in bad times, in your weakness, you are the mirror.
Okay.
Because you're reactive to the environment around you, or you're reactive to stimuli, right? Food, sex, whatever, pretty girls. All these things are reflected in you, and you are just sort of led around by them, and they make the spirit dusty insofar as the spirit's not doing anything.
Gotcha.
But when we turn inward and we allow the soul to govern and take over, it shakes off the dust, and the mirror becomes a true reflection of us rather than a reflection of what's outside.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So the mirror was turned away from us, and it collects the dust, and then we turn it towards ourselves.
Yes, I guess. Yeah, you're flipping me. Yeah, but yes. Okay. Yeah. That's also fine. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So in other words, these experiences accrue. The soul, unaffected by these externalities, makes us clean. Connecting with the soul, which exists apart on a separate plane of being, and focusing the mind on the soul, is the first step toward wisdom and understanding. This is how Blavatsky phrases it. She says, "Shun ignorance, and likewise shun illusion. Avert thy face from world deceptions. Mistrust thy senses, they're false. But within thy body, the shrine of thy sensations, seek in the impersonal for the eternal man. For having sought him out, look inward. Thou art Buddha." Seek the impersonal, the eternal man. There's an aspect of you that, again, back to what we said at the beginning, is all. It feels like it's you, and it feels like it's the one, but it really is everybody. It's a piece of God.
Yeah.
And it's there at the core of you. If you can connect to that eternal human, then you're shaking off your spiritual dust. That multitude, that many, in all its uniqueness and strangeness and differentness, that's the illusion. Because in fact, it's all God.
Yeah.
It's the monad. Okay, so, but there's two paths, remember? And the existence of two paths suggests that it is not enough to be Buddha. So we've just gone through a lot of Buddha-ness here. How do we get to Buddha state, path one? But path one's not enough for this book, because this is for the advanced student, remember?
Yeah, that Buddha stuff is intermediate at best.
To be the Buddha, yeah, come on. Kid stuff. Compassion draws us to the second path, the path of woe, which is also the path of deep selflessness. Am I selling you on this path? The path of woe?
Yeah. It's also crazy calling the Buddha selfish.
Come on, man. Come on, Buddha. I know, we're going to talk about that in a second. The Shangna robe, I should say, 'tis true, can purchase light eternal. The Shangna robe alone gives the nirvana of destruction. It stops rebirth. But oh, Lanu, it also kills compassion. No longer can the perfect Buddhas who don the Dharmakaya glory help man's salvation. Alas, shall selves be sacrificed to self? Mankind unto the wheel of units? No, O beginner, this is the open path, the way to selfish bliss, shunned by the bodhisattvas of the secret heart, the Buddhas of compassion. To live to benefit mankind is the first step. To practice the 6 glorious virtues is the second. Back to that magic number 6 for part 2.
Yeah.
All right, so John asked, well, is the Buddha selfish then? He reached nirvana. I don't think Blavatsky would suggest that our Buddha was selfish. And I did dig around in this because it seems to suggest this in the two paths.
Yeah.
He may very well be classified as a Buddha of compassion here. There are, after all, Buddhas like the Pure Land's Amitabha Buddha who also function as quasi-bodhisattvas. We're going to do 2 episodes on Pure Land Buddhism coming up when we go to Japan. Are you excited to go to Japan?
Very much so.
Yeah, won't that be cool?
Shinto?
Yeah, we'll do some Shinto, absolutely.
Nice.
Hoping to do some Shingon Buddhism. We're going to get all over the place. We're going to do an episode on Neon Genesis.
Evangelion?
Yeah, man.
I've never seen it, but maybe
I
will
gonna
now.
Have to. Yeah, it's time. The time has come. Though enlightened, they have used their enlightenment to teach and to create a space for all entities to achieve liberation. But I'm only guessing here. We can't really say for sure what her take is on the Buddha. So the Amitabha Buddha, just like a quick thumbnail of the Amitabha Buddha, is that the Amitabha Buddha makes a primal vow. And again, 2 episodes forthcoming. So if you're like, Rob, I really need more than this. The Amitabha Buddha made a primal vow to create essentially a paradise where all beings, when they die, who put their faith in the Amitabha Buddha, can go and work on their enlightenment, and then they get to hang out there till they're enlightened.
Gotcha. So, quick question: is that a type of Buddha or a specific Buddha?
It is a specific Buddha who exists in this specific heaven. It's
Like a realm.
It's arguably the closest religion to Christianity, because all you have to do is put your faith in the Buddha, and you get to go to his heaven.
Gotcha.
With then there's a lot of differences with Christianity, because it's not an end point, but
it sounds more like a purgatory.
Yes, but it's nice. So this Buddha was enlightened. He is a Buddha, but he was enlightened on the condition that he could create and maintain this paradise for the rest of us. So compassion can be part of it. So let's hear a little bit about what Blavatsky says about our literal historical Buddha. She says, Samyak Sambuddha, the teacher of perfection, gave up his self for the salvation of the world. This is in The Voice of the Silence. Now, while Samyak Sambuddha may refer to a hypothetical perfect Buddha, it may also refer to the Sakyamuni Buddha, right? Samyak Sambuddha, also known as, who was originally known as Siddhartha Gautama. Our Buddha, in other words, is this guy. So just going back to what she said, let's just sub in the words our Buddha. Our Buddha, the teacher of perfection, gave up his self for the salvation of the world. Sounds almost Christian, right?
Yeah.
The Shagna robe, remember this when I mentioned it earlier? Like sound like weird and magical again, like
when they put it on.
Yeah, something you buy at a shop in a video game medieval town. The Shagna robe is, as far as I can tell, a bit of lore that is unique to Blavatsky. She says that it is made from a grass that grows in a clean spot after an arhan or saintly person is born, and that robes are created for neophytes out of this grass. So she's essentially saying we can put on the robe of the neophyte to go off and do this work. But the Shagna robe alone gives the nirvana of destruction. It stops rebirth. It kills compassion. So in donning the Shagna robe, it's a good thing in that it allows us out of the rebirth cycle. It is a bad thing, though, insofar as it kills compassion. Sakyamuni Buddha, our Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, was compassionate. He lived until he was 80 years old and taught as many people as he could get his hands on, what he learned from his process of enlightenment. So, arguably, this is a sign that our Buddha continued to have compassion.
Yeah.
He didn't just disappear.
Is it possible that what she's saying is as long as you have the robe on, it kills compassion? So while you are in the neophyte phase, you could just be completely focused on that and focused on yourself and your enlightenment. But once you take the robe off, then you are able to have compassion again?
Yeah, I'm taking a look here, John. Shall selves be sacrificed to self, mankind unto the wheel of units? No, O beginner, this is the open path, the way to selfish bliss, shunned by the bodhisattvas of the Sacred Heart. I think it's possible to read her this way. The second path, in the way you're talking about, would then follow the first path, but you can get off at the end of the first path.
Yeah.
But the higher, more enlightened being, who's full of compassion, continues from the first path into the second.
It's almost like a Y shape.
Yes. Yeah. Blavatsky concludes this section by saying, the path is one disciple, yet in the end twofold. Marked are its stages by 4 and 7 portals. At one end, bliss immediate, and at the other, bliss deferred. Both are of merit, the reward. The choice is thine. The second path of renunciation is the path of woe. So there you go. You're signing up for a whole lot of pain. Because the Bodhisattva comes right to the edge of enlightenment and says, no, I'm going to stay until everybody is enlightened.
Yeah.
What a glorious day when all the Bodhisattvas finally get to, ascend and complete. So yeah, I guess, yeah. I don't know. It's so hard to parse exactly where the Buddha falls on this.
Yeah, but it's also a weird contradiction that the Buddha was kind of both.
Yeah, yes.
Right?
And maybe that's the mystery, right, at the core, yeah, that he's both compassionate and a teacher, and sharing, like, without him, we wouldn't know any of this, right? There wouldn't be any of this lore or thought. And yet, he went away.
Yeah.
The 7 portals. Last but not least, we've been waiting for the 7. One of my favorite lines from the text, and perhaps the most occulty in the modernist sense, is in the last section, which is about the 7 portals. And this is it. The line says, "Prepare thyself, for thou wilt have to travel on alone. The teacher can but point the way. The path is one for all. The means to reach the goal must vary with the pilgrims." What I like about this...
That's cool.
Isn't that cool?
That's cool.
Blavatsky inverts the standard formula that we tend to articulate on this show. We've said there are many paths to the mountaintop of spiritual truth. Blavatsky says there is one path, but we will all find our own way to reach it. In part, this is an acknowledgement of the incredible variability among the incarnated and seemingly infinite number of paths each of us must necessarily be taking to have arrived where we are collectively right now. But this also suggests that the path, particularly the second path outlined in the Voice of the Silence, is the one true path, albeit it's a very abstract path. The path is, at core, commitment to turning inward, silencing the externalities of the body and the mind, and discovering the true core of the self as it is unified to the whole of the universe at the core of your being. Certainly any number of white light spiritual paths, and perhaps even some not so white light paths, might achieve the same result. Right? Do you think Christianity could sort of get up to this? Let me go back.
Yeah.
Commitment to turning inward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Silencing the externalities of body and mind.
Yep.
What was the next thing? Discovering the true core of the self, unified to the whole of the universe, at the core of your being. Maybe that's the one where it gets a little funky.
Yeah, it could. I mean, how I would, as someone who was raised primitive Baptist,
Mm-hmm.
how I would read that would be anything that said something about like within or the Spirit or anything, that would be the Holy Spirit.
So unifying with the Holy Spirit,
Yes.
which is universse,
Yes.
does the same work.
Yep.
And we're all capable of this in theory. You've
You've
got a little predestination, don't
yeah,
you?
yeah,
We're going to have to leave that behind if we're going to get on board here, but
definitely.
Yes.
Sorry, Calvin.
Yeah, right. Sorry, Calvin. I think that's the case, though. I think Christianity is a white light religion, right? Buddhism is a white light religion. The Abrahamic religions are white light religions by and large. They're about self-sacrifice to some extent, and getting over yourself in order to connect with God. I think that there's always going to be details, right?
Yeah.
That need to be ironed out to get on to the one path. But arguably, they could all be characterized if we're thinking broadly enough about the one path. They are the path in some way. But yeah, we're going to have to get over some of the details. Certainly any number of... Okay, as we're saying. So, that's just fine. In any case, each of us must discover our own way, and we must make the trip. So this is, this was a discovery I really made thinking closely about religion during my dissertation phase, and it seems quite obvious, but it finally sort of like sunk in, I think, that even though Catholicism is a religion, or primitive baptism, or spiritualism, or whatever you want to study, whatever you want to believe, every single human being who ascribes to that belief system is different and has their own unique take on exactly what those beliefs entail.
Yep.
There's no unified, okay, we all collectively believe this.
Yeah.
We say it.
Yep.
But in practice, who we really are and what we really believe is distinct, and we're interpreting it just, sometimes a hair differently from the guy next to us, but differently nevertheless. That's all of us making the trip, and that's the fact that the preacher, the pastor, the imam, no one's going to show you the way. I mean, they can point and be like, over there.
Yeah.
But you got to walk it by yourself.
Yeah.
During our journey, we will pass through.
You don't have like a little angel on your right shoulder narrating every single thing you do.
No, it's inside you, right? That's your angel.
Yeah.
Not on your shoulder, but in your spirit. Let's pass through the 7 portals, shall we? You ready?
Portal time.
It's portal time. We've been waiting all day for the 7.
We've heard about sounds and pathways and halls and I'm ready for some portals.
Starts with your middle school girlfriend, Dana.
How'd you know?
Because she is the key of charity and love immortal. Then comes Sila, the key of harmony in word and act, the key that counterbalances the cause and effect and leaves no further room for karmic action. Then comes Kashanti, patience, sweet, that naught can ruffle. Then Virag, indifference to pleasure and to pain, illusion conquered, truth alone perceived. Virya, the dauntless energy that fights its way to the supernal truth out of the mire of lies terrestrial. Dhyana, whose golden gate once opened, leads to the Naljur, toward the realm of Sat eternal, and is ceaseless contemplation. And Prajna, the key to which makes of a man a god, creating him a bodhisattva, son of the Dhyanis.
So why does key keep coming up?
I think that the notion of passing through the portal is a little bit like opening the door.
Okay.
So the key metaphor is, you discover charity and love immortal, and that opens the first door.
Gotcha.
You discover, the cause and effect is, not necessary to your being, and you open the second door. Yeah,
okay.
on and on.
That makes sense.
Blavatsky emphasizes the need to maintain mental and physical purity and focus on this journey. She says, "For on path the fourth, the lightest breeze of passion or desire will stir the steady light upon the pure white walls of soul. The smallest wave of longing or regret for Maya's gifts elusive along Antakarana, should have practiced that one. The smallest wave of longing or regret for Maya's gifts elusive along Antakarana, the path that lies between thy spirit and thyself, the highway of sensations, the rude arousers of Ankara. A thought as fleeting as the lightning flash will make thee thy three prizes forfeit, the prizes thou hast won." Okay. So at any point, like you're unlocking the doors, but don't get comfortable. Don't be like, okay, I unlocked the first door, I'm good to go.
Yeah.
You could be sent back, do not pass go, do not collect $200. You got to start all over.
Yeah.
I've sometimes personally regarded perfect detachment as the goal of Buddhist practice, albeit married to compassion, as Blavatsky says. But here she's saying detachment requires maintenance. It's all too easy, to borrow from Christian terminology, to backslide. And the consequences are a complete restart, like a video game from '87.
Yeah. Once you run out of lives, you're done.
There are no continues in this game. Yeah, you got to start back at the beginning.
No save scumming.
No, yes, no passcodes. More familiar is the idea that accomplishment can become its own distraction from the work. So as you're passing through the portals, you're achieving things, and you get a little all up in yourself. She says, "Thou hast removed pollution from thine heart, and bled it from impure desire. But, O thou glorious combatant, thy task is not yet done. Build high, Lanu, the wall that shall hedge in the holy isle, the dam that will protect thy mind from pride and satisfaction at thoughts of the great feat achieved."
She is speaking like a JRPG, like, "Oh, thou glorious combatant, their work is not yet done."
It is, yes, yeah. You're right, though, John. Like, that's interesting to think about, that it's very questy and very, like, you're a spiritual warrior, I think.
Yeah, you got to solve the puzzles and, like, get through the doors. And
yes, yeah. And do battle with the demons of illusion. If we stop and reflect on how terrific we are for having done so well at any point, we will immediately lose our way. The pillar of salt, right? Or Orpheus down into hell. The looking back.
Lot's wife.
Right, Lot's wife. Do not look over your shoulder. There's even a Japanese version of that, of one of the original kami gods going down into hell and not listening to his wife to not look over his shoulder.
Oh.
Goes badly for him. She gets real mad at him. So this is a feature of flow, by the way. So to connect this up. So the notion that we shouldn't look over our shoulder, that we shouldn't second guess what we're doing, is an important part of the concept, the psychological and performance concept of flow, which I teach about in my classes. Flow suggests a state of mind in which the performer has motivation to complete a task beyond the task itself. Oh, Lord, no. What I mean to say is, if we lack flow, that means the performer has motivation to complete a task beyond the task itself. When we are in flow, we become completely immersed in what we are doing. We don't have any external motivation. Think about that external, internal again.
Yeah.
In a state of flow, we're fully governed by internal motivation. Ego, though rarely mentioned in the context of flow, steps in to judge the doer in the process of doing and breaks the experience or interrupts the flow.
It's like watching yourself on stage, or if you're on stage, looking at the audience and thinking about what they think
How
of
am I
you.
doing? Yeah, what are they thinking of me? You lose the character, right? You lose the performance. You know, playing a sport or something, right? If you stop to think about how you're doing or how much it hurts, then...
Yeah, or you look at your mom, clapping for you on the sidelines.
You completely lose. You get hit in the head with the ball, right? True story. Blavatsky phrases this as defending oneself against pride, which is hard to conceptualize as a psychological maneuver, but the idea is more or less the same. Blavatsky echoes her earlier concern for remaining focused on the internal, and it bears repeating just to get a feel for how significant this is to the path and journey through the portals. She says, "For as the diamond buried deep within the throbbing heart of earth can never mirror back the earthly lights, so are thy mind and soul, plunged in Janana Marga. These must mirror naught of Maya's realm elusive." This is so essential. It returns as a theme in each of the 3 chapters. So to sum up here, significantly, the 7 portals do not lead to nirvana, but rather the state of the bodhisattva, perched on the brink of enlightenment. The bodhisattva commits to remain through the many kalpas or eons of existence, without a thought for credit or congratulations. She says, self-doomed to live through future kalpas, unthanked and unperceived by men, wedged as a stone with countless other stones which form the guardian wall, such is thy future if the 7th gate thou passest. Built, as she says, by the hands of many masters of compassion, raised by their tortures, by their blood cemented, it shields mankind, since man is man, protecting it from further and far greater misery and sorrow. So here, as Blavatsky winds up her treatise, the image of the wall comes back from earlier in her description of the portals. Earlier in her description, it was a wall against pride and ego. The wall against pride and ego builds toward the far grander wall of the bodhisattvas, which is arranged against the forces of illusion, delusion, and misunderstanding. The bodhisattvas build the incorruptible structure that will edify humanity in its quest for the eternal light. Final thoughts, John?
Do you think that bodhisattvas can go through an 8th portal and ascend? Or would that act of selfishness start them over?
I think it would ruin the whole thing. Yeah. It has to be a perfect selflessness. I mean, the way she talks about it, you can be set back to the beginning. The bodhisattva's committed, yeah. I mean, there's stories in the Buddhist literature of, I think I've mentioned these on the show. I don't know, but like a Buddhist master, right, who's like on the brink, right, of truly understanding and pure detachment, but just before he dies, he sees an apple and he's like, oh, I'd like that apple, and then he dies, and then he's reborn as a worm, right?
Oh yeah.
So it is. I mean, it's such a delicate, gentle thing. It's not. It sort of works against our conception of like a Protestant work ethic, that you can build this structure, this thing that when all is said and done, like it stands for you.
Yeah,
is more flimsy and changeable, I think, in this world. And you sort of accept that, I think, with the Bodhisattva path, that when you're stepping back and saying, no, I'm not going to do this, I think there's a possibility that you're going to have to make that choice over and over and over again as you're tempted away, by the, exigencies of just like creatural existence. Yeah, it's sort of an amazing thought. Bodhisattva is really an inspiring, maybe the most inspiring spiritual figure, like in terms of like a pure selfless devotion to humankind and love.
Yeah. And also it's like the way she's talking about the Buddha, it's like you do this once, you do it and you're done, you're good.
Yeah.
And then the Bodhisattva, it's like you do this once and then you might have to do it who knows how many more times.
Yeah, you better get used to it. Yeah, that's the practice. That's the patience. I mean, so much of it, right, is like just good advice for living to some extent. I mean, that like deep Krishnamurti thought to me, like, is this idea of letting it all go, right? And just like accepting the exigencies of existence and being present and not trying so hard to be this or that, because the path is what it is. And if you truly love and you're truly selfless, then there is no end for you in immediate sight, because you're surrounded by imperfection and you yourself are imperfect, and that's okay. We're just going to wait this one out. Eventually we'll get there.
Yeah. Don't think about it too hard.
Don't think,
because then you're not
going
to be in flow state.
Right. Yeah. If you're going to flow, you just got to give up the hope for results, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's what's misleading a little bit about the voice of silence now, thinking back on it, our Dragon Quest, like, sort of like metaphor of it, like all this questing and slaying of dragons, right, of slayer of the mind. It seems to suggest a kind of like a linear result, but then Blavatsky loops back on herself and says, oh, no, you can easily be, set back to the beginning. So while the language of slaying feels like, oh, okay, I did it, not really. You're really just in... You really need to live for the flow of it, understanding that you will slay and probably need to slay over and over and over again.
Sounds kind of like a roguelike game.
Yes, you're a dungeon crawler. You're going to be back in that dungeon.
Yep, fighting the same monsters over and over and over again.
Yes. Hello?
I heard that.
It's just children. I hereby adjourn and declare closed this meeting of the Secret Order of Alchemical Actors until such a time as we get together and do it again. My name again is Dr. Robert C. Thompson, joined by John Cook, our patron progenitor.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. And you may hear those children knocking on the door. That's the children who want us to rehearse with them this evening, and we need to exercise great patience and compassion for them, John. This very
I've already
day.
failed. I need to start over.
Start it over. It's okay. We start it over. We stay in the flow. We do it again here on Occult Confessions. We were just thinking about sound here, John, and you had a couple of interesting observations.
Yeah, so how you mentioned before, like how she thinks sound is like one of the most important of the five senses.
Yeah.
I was thinking that out of the five, it's really sight and sound that, your eyes and your ears are damaged by having them be overloaded, and once that damage happens, you can't really recover from that.
Yeah, let me walk that through a second. So sight, right? Like you don't wear your sunglasses. Like too much light makes the baby go blind, right?
Yeah, you look at the sun and you start,
Yeah, you can degrade. And then sound, you can't really get your hearing back at all, right? There's things they can do for your eyes, I think, these days, but there's nothing they can do about your hearing at all. And what causes your hearing to go is overexposure to loud noises, right? In the shop or whatever, like running the chainsaw.
Yeah, like you need hearing protection or you're gonna start getting tinnitus.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, so overstimulation is a kind of like break or destruction of the sense itself.
Yeah, but that's not true for touch or taste or anything like that. You can have pour a gallon of sugar on your tongue and it's gonna taste bad for a little bit. Your tongue's gonna recover.
Yeah.
Same thing with touch. Like you could get a massage chair or go sort of over any textures you want, and then the next day you'll be fine. They may, I suppose, degrade with age, but it's not related to how they're accessed or used. Yeah, that's interesting. Interesting thought. Interesting concluding thought.